Good day. This is God Says Ministries, the House of Fire, and my name is Tavis. Uh, Today I just want to give you who I am, who I was, and who I am now. So you have some idea of what God did to me. So I was born, in South Africa, in a town called East London, on the coast, and lived my childhood life here in East London. Um, our family was a fishing family, a sports fisherman family, and I grew up here fishing with the family and fishing wherever I could get a ride out to sea to go fishing on weekends. You know, uh, most people didn't see me most of the time on weekends. Most other kids, I was Saturday, Sunday. I was out at sea as far as I can get, as many times I can get. The ocean became my home, basically. My family life was excellent. We're a loving family. It's myself and my two brothers, mom and dad. Mom fished as well. She got her provincial colours for fishing, deep sea I'm talking about, on the ocean. But my school life wasn't uh, that good in a sense because I was a lot bigger than everybody else, and I had a fear of my own strength. So it became obvious that I wouldn't fight back if there was a fight or something, so I got teased the hell out of and picked on a bit. But it all, you know, gives you character and whatever, although it turned my character into something else. I spent my youth year until the age of 23, where got fed up with, well, I needed a job. Then I was a qualified outboard mechanic, worked on Evinrude and Johnson. I started working at the family business, which was Bucks Marine, which was a marine business on boats and outboard engines. And of course, we fished as often as we could. As I said, the ocean was my home. And I spent a lot of time on it as a youth. But fished around the country in competitions all around the whole country. Spent my time as a 14, 15, 16-year-old with adults most of the time. Was a quiet person and got even quieter as the years went on. Frustration built up inside of me over the years. I wasn't a violent person, as I said, but I had a hole inside of me that I used to pack things away. I never reacted to them. I packed it away, packed it away, packed it away. And then when it got too full, it exploded. And only way I could get rid of it was pound a brick wall or put my fist through a door or whatever. And then it would go ease off and the hole would be empty for the next time. Yeah, so much so that I was drafted up to the Navy, and I only lasted 2 weeks. I wanted to do the Navy stint, but because of my reaction to authority and to people making fools of other people, I hated it. I hated it with a passion. People making fools out of people. I was told to go home. So I was sent home like 2.5 weeks later. And they said they didn't want a lethal weapon walking around the campus, but I mean, I wasn't really a lethal weapon, I was just lethal to myself. Anyway, so I got back, yeah, had no job, because I had to give up. I gave my job in the Navy, and saw an ad down in a small town called Port Alfred down here for a skipper's job for commercial fishing. Packed up my stuff, headed down in my old little Austin Apache at the age of 23, and I spent another 20 years down in the Port Alfred area, which is about 150 kilometers from this, from me, yeah. So, but people were very wary of me because I never spoke to a soul. If you ask me, hello, how you doing? I'll be, and I just didn't like people at all. Ocean was my safety net. I fished as many days as I could. I ended up skippering for somebody for a couple of months, and then somebody else for a couple more months, and got to know the area and the fishing area, and was bringing decent loads. And then I spoke to my father, and we organized a license for myself and a boat for myself. My boat was called Bang Robber. Anyway, Bang Robber fished the oceans, whether it was gale force winds or flat seas, pouring with rain, clapping lightning. Times I went out at sea by myself, not a soul on board, just to get away from society. Just couldn't stand people. And I turned into an alcoholic, basically. I turned into an alcoholic. You know, when we didn't fish, the pub opened at 10, and I was in the pub at 10, and by 10 o'clock, and I left when the pub closed at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes climbed straight on the boat and went out to sea, fishing for the day. And of course, this temper thing inside me was always there. I made a good bouncer at a club there, the pub there and the club at night. Nobody knew me as such, got to know me as such, really, to find out whether they could take me on or what. So there wasn't. I was the only bouncer at times, or sometimes up to 800 people in there, and no fights when I was there. Only the fights happened when I was off that night or was fishing that night, because sometimes we fished day and night. And yeah, so I had this real bad temper problem, but basically with myself more than else. Keeping holding it, and it will explode, and I would explode and pound the walls, and I did a lot of crying because that used to stop me from hurting the people in front of you. But if you cry in a fight, before a fight, I mean, it's open door for somebody to react, you know. So that was the only way I could from kids' size. Yeah, so I'm cutting it as short as I can. But I met a woman down there. I had one or two girlfriends down there. Not lasted very long. Met somebody else down there who was older than me, 14 years older than me. And we got together. And the first thing she said to me is, "Don't grunt at me." So when we got together, I had a friend that his name is James Arnott. He is now pastor Arnott in Australia. He's a pastor in Australia. He wasn't a pastor then. He was my drinking buddy then, and party buddy. And he got a radical touch from God. A radical touch from God. And he got thrown across a room, like 4 or 5 pews back. And yeah, he got radically on fire for God. Got born again the one weekend, and saw him in the shop with my wife then. It's an ex-wife now. Saw him in the shop, and he said, "What? Come to Sunday. I'm getting baptized." I was like, "Okay, you're getting baptized." And so we went to his Sunday baptism, and before he got baptized, I got born again in 1998. So I was born again in 1998, and things started changing. The drinking started going, went quite quickly. Actually, about 3 months, and I stopped. It's just the alcohol didn't taste right anymore. Though I did slip back into the world with alcohol a couple of times after that, but not as bad as I was. And I started going to church. But as an income, the fishing had come to an end because the government had decided that they were going to take all the licenses away and give them to the underprivileged who never went on the ocean and never had skipper's tickets or anything like that. So they took my license away, and when I saw the amount of documents and things I had to fill in and what I had to do to get it back again, it wasn't worth it. So I am then an ex-commercial fisherman, and now I'd already spent like a third of my life on the ocean, and now I didn't have a job, and I was a qualified mechanic, airport mechanic, but I didn't have a shop. We had a little shop where it sold paint. Ex-wife started it, and so I decided, okay, I'm going to go and put my hand at making things. So I started making garden furniture. And garden furniture led to one thing, to another thing, to another thing, where I taught myself how to plumb, I taught myself electrician work, I taught myself how to lay bricks, I taught myself to plaster, I taught myself to work with fiberglass, I built swimming pools, I built fish ponds, I built rooms, add on to houses, brickwork, brick and mortar work. I did decks, I did spiral staircases, normal staircases. So as I was going along, I was teaching myself how to do all these things, and then I had a thing that I always used to say: if I could see it in my head, I could build it. So I ended up with a business called Wild Wet Arts, which covered all art, you could say, building things, whatever. I am a fine artist, paint with oils. Well, I haven't painted for quite a few years now, but paint with oils, realistic stuff. And so, but as Wild Wet Art, I called it. So, I mean, that was from doing t-shirts, printing t-shirts, actually hand painting t-shirts, to building houses, to building wooden houses, to building wendy houses, to building swimming pools, to building boats, to building whatever. You gave me something strange to build, I'll build it for you. And if it's normal, I'll build it for you as well. So I taught myself to do all the plumbing, do all the electrics, everything. Whatever that person wanted, I built thatch larpers, wooden floors, furniture, whatever on that side of the things. Waterfalls for the hotels around that area, in their fish ponds, their koi ponds, and out of fiberglass or concrete or whatever, whatever I could build it. I was a man with a plan. A man with a plan, ex-wife hated that thing. We were in trouble in the shop or something like it. We were in trouble money wise. I said, I'll make a plan. And she grew to hate that saying, I'll make a plan. Anyway, I always did. And the other part of the business was Wild and Wet Marine, which was then I took on boats and I bought engines and repaired them and sold them and whatever. So I had this whole thing going on with both sides of things, and and I had 5 youngsters, black youngsters. I took on, made sure they were young. One Zimbabwean guy, George, and they did. I put 1 year, one there on the sides, and because it's a small town, you had to really have your fingers in a lot of pies because it's a small town, so you had to be able to get an income in. So you were doing 2 jobs or 3 jobs at a time, and in this process, in 2006, we split up. My wife and I split up, got divorced. I didn't have any kids of my own. I still don't have any kids of my own. And I was building a house myself there, which didn't pan out at all either. Because I build things that nobody else builds. And people were frightened when I started building a house. They thought I was going to have this house like 10 meters off the ground on poles. But it was a log home. I always wanted to build a log home. And of course, the red tape got in the way. I was roof height, and anyway, I took a chainsaw to it and cut it down. But anyway, in my frustration. So, yeah, this was all going on, and I was working and involved with somebody else at that time. And 2008, the American market said goodbye. And because I had so many jobs pending that people said yes, I was taking money from this one to pay for money from that one accounts, and that one accounts, that one accounts. And that's how I was working all the time, and of course living like that. And of course the people that jobs pending said, "Whoa, we're going to see what happens." And that was the end of me. Look, some guys coming up my driveway, going to fetch my Nissan Bucky. I took the car away. Paid it for like 3 years. Took the car away. Then the woman and I parted, and I was the man with the plan with no plan. And no matter how hard I thought and how many ways I could think of trying to do something and fix this, the man with the plan had no more plans, and he was heading for the gutter. Until my friend James popped up on the scene, Pastor James, and said, "Come stay down in Kenton," which was another 20 k's down the line, where they had a little church there, and said, "We'll get you back on your feet, help you out and get back on your feet." And I ended up in a 6 by 10 meter workshop, which was mostly corrugated iron, like an aircraft hangar, but split down the center with a wall, and it was 6 meters high. And so I put a little floor in the back, and that was my bedroom, and my workshop bed, and it was my home for 4 years. And it was an industrial area, and so on weekends there was nobody around. Excuse me. But that started in end of 2008. 2009, we were in the church there. I was fresh in the church there and anything like that. When Pastor Ronnie Howe Brown pitched up here in 2009 in East London to do, it was only supposed to be 20 days of glory or something like that. And it ended up 50 days of glory. And in that service, after about a week being in there, I got radically touched by God. And I got a hunger for God like nothing else. And because I was living in a workshop with nobody around, you could call it my cave. And God showed me things in that workshop and taught me things in that workshop. And people died on me. I ministered to some guy every day who was battling with sort of mental illness. and I took a rope off around his neck one day. Another died of a heart attack in my arms. Revived him physically. I went into tongues in the middle of nowhere. People standing around, like cops, and me praying in tongues. So God had me there for 4 years, and the Holy Spirit taught me. And what happened? He took that hole, he took all that anger out. But he didn't close that hole up. He just filled it with himself. It's over 10 years now. And if you ask me, do I know what anger is? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea what the feeling of anger is anymore. It doesn't matter what you do to me. I can't find that feeling anymore. That hole is so full of God. And anger hasn't got a place to stand. So as I said, I spend a third of my life on the ocean. I'm 51 now. And a third of my life on the ocean. The ocean was my home. It was my hiding place from society. And God took it away. And in 2016, I was in the jungles of Uganda. Now before that, if I couldn't smell the ocean, I was too far from it. 2016, 2018, 2019, in Uganda, which is miles from the ocean. You can't smell it at all. He had me in the jungles of Uganda, building stuff for an orphanage, children, which are my children now. 2 years in a row, 2 months, 2016, 2018, and then he let me loose on Uganda churches in 2019, preaching the power of God. The power of God. Because a lot of people in churches are already born again. And they need to know what power they have in them. So I spend the time preaching the power of God. I'm hoping to get back to Uganda before the end of this year, but I don't know what this COVID's going to do. I'm hoping to get back for their 10th anniversary of the school, orphanage first, and then the school that came afterwards, in the jungle of Uganda, in the middle of nowhere, to be a part of their 10th anniversary in November. But God spun me around, turned me upside down, inside out, and made me who I am today. People have to tell me to shh, because I talk too much, and I talk too much about God. I used to talk a lot about fishing. All I do is talk about God now. He turned me upside down. Angry, drunk fisherman. Hated society. Couldn't stand people. Turned me upside down. Turned me into his prophet. His prophet to speak his word. His word of love or warning or whatever he wants to speak. And set me loose on Africa. As I said, I'm hoping to get back to Uganda this year still. When the finances come in. I'm not going to say if the finances come in, because when the finances come in. I've just given you a short version of it. There was so much that he did in between, and how he used me and showed me and taught me and whatever. And there was so much part of my commercial fishing life that I should never have come home. There were many a days that I should never have come home. Never ever have come home. Sitting out in 65 knot winds, get hit by 65 knot winds, and our vessels aren't aren't big, they're small, you know. You probably could hold a ton and a half of fish on it, and that's max. And 65 knots hits you, that you're acting like a kite in the water on your anchor. And I hit a hole through the one day, and I was sinking 12 miles out. There's times when I come back through the mouth and it's pitch dark and the surf is cooking. We run through surf here, we don't run out of harbours here. But there's hundreds and hundreds of times that I shouldn't be here. And I wasn't born again at that stage, but he knew he had a plan for me. And the man with the plan had no plan, it became God's plan. So here I am. My name is Tavis Oosting. I'm 51 years old now. I am on fire for God. I'm 51, but I feel about 12 at most of the times. The presence of God. Anyway, there's so many testimonies I could give what God did to me. Just running out of things that you need, coffee, things. And while I'm still serving coffee comes at my door at like 6 o'clock in the morning in the middle of a industrial area on a Saturday morning. There's nobody else around, and there's an old lady standing at my door with a packet with a tin of coffee, 2 liter sugar, 2.5 sugar, 2 liter milk, and a roast chicken. And while I was stirring my last bit of coffee, I was asking God, I like my coffee. I need you to get me some coffee. I got no money to buy coffee. And while I was still stirring, a lady walked in my door with coffee. 6 o'clock in the morning. Elderly lady in an industrial area. God is faithful. He has never let me down. He never will let me down. He never will let you down. The man with a plan became man without a plan, and it became God's plan. It's time to let God be your plan. God bless you. May His favor from every party. In Jesus' name, amen.